All right. We are live. Okay. Let me just post real quick that we are live. So what everyone think of the samples?
Interesting.
The funny thing is,
I say it's had its highs and lows. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think for me, it was funny when I first started. I think I started at the lowest of the low, and it just like ruined me. I was like, God, did he send me just a bunch of just like crap? Like, we got to just filter through all this. So.
Is he actually not even doing a blind review? He just is making you drink crappy whiskey.
He figured out like which stuff he could get rid of from underneath the sink.
Yeah. Right. Somebody's got to drink it.
Yeah, if you drink, I don't know. I drank them straight, like the way they are labeled, and it definitely kind of trended towards the to the lower. The higher up you went, the better they got for me. I don't know.
Yeah, see, there was actually no rhyme or reason really to that. I just did family initials because I was trying to keep it random. And I would just put something in a bottle in one at a time, and then I'm like running out of family initials that I could even add on there. But so there wasn't a whole lot of thought, but whenever I look back at it, I'm like, oh, that does kind of trend in a way. Hold on, let me just pull up the comments.
And I'm repping Mr. Bly's glass tonight too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's funny. I'm repping Julian's.
I'm repping my
this guy.
All right, Blake, you're back to choppy again.
Yep.
How's my feed? Because I'm on Wi-Fi right now.
I am too. You're good.
You sound fine, Edwin.
Cool.
Yeah, it's just Blake.
Just me still?
Yeah, it's just you, man. Didn't you just buy a new router too? Like, what the hell happened?
Yeah. Well, it's the new router is. Oh shit! You know, I don't even know if it's in.
It might not. I mean, the thing is, it's like it's coming through HD, like when you're doing this. So I think it's fine. It's something with your audio setup.
Hold on. I may just do this.
Just make sure that gear is functioning, that it's doing the correct microphone endpoint.
All right. Is that any better?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just gonna pull off the Blue Yeti or whatever this is. All right, so we got 56 people on. Let's go ahead and get started. So welcome, everyone. This is episode 2 of the Bourbonr Blind Tasting. I send out samples to vetted whiskey enthusiasts and just have them taste blind. No information's given. They put all their reviews in, and then we show up tonight and reveal and discuss all the results. So let's just kind of go around and let everyone introduce themselves. Max, if you want to go ahead first.
Sure. Yeah, my name's Max. I run Superfly Bourbon Club with my best friend Mike. He's out in San Francisco. I'm in the Tampa Bay, Florida area. Just reviews, articles, whatever we find interesting, feel like writing about or posting about. Instagram, Facebook, and superflybourbonclub.com.
Carrot or Kenny, you want to go next?
Oh man, you're screwing it up already.
I'm still on that.
You
carry every single time, but
no, it's all good. It actually feels weird. You know, you're actually asking me these questions this time. It's always the other way around. So, Kenny Coleman here. I'm the host of the Bourbon Pursuit podcast. You might see some familiar faces on here. I think Edwin might be the only person that I haven't had the podcast had on yet. So I need to make sure that that's going to happen. Then we'll have a full quorum. So yeah, make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Facebook. There's also YouTube and Instagram where you can actually follow all that. All the podcasts are online. So make sure you subscribe. It'll with this turkey season coming up here this week, it'll kill some time during those road trips.
Ed Vargas, that is. We got 2 Eds on tonight, so we're gonna, I'm sure, have that mix up multiple times. But Ed, go ahead.
Hey, Ed Vargas here, founding member of the Cleveland Bourbon Club, and you might catch me every once in a while these times because I don't blog too much, but I did post something recently up on the Whiskey Seeker blog page, and know a bunch of these guys except Blake and Kenny, but this is going to be fun. I had a great time.
Ed Bly.
Well, my name is Ed Bly. I run the spirits and beer department at Cork and Bottle. Do follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter for all the releases that we do.
Very good. All right. Well, I know I feel like Kenny will be grading my performance as the host tonight since she was usually on the other foot, so I feel a little bit nervous, but we'll go ahead and get started. So tonight's, or the episode number 2, the release was, or the theme, I guess, was wheated bourbons. So everything you tasted, all 10 were wheated bourbons.
Oh.
The funny thing was both Ed Bly and Max said, is this a Four Roses tasting? And then they both kind of came off of it a little bit after they tasted a few more, I think. So I think it had a lot of that. So I'm just going to go ahead and start from lowest to highest. So if you can see behind me,
I'll be honest, I had no idea this was all wheated. Like I was actually trying to go through. I didn't actually pull out a rye or anything like that to eat from. Put it this way, guys, I'm a good procrastinator. So I did all 10 samples in the past like 12 hours, right? So it was like part last night and then part today, and
wow.
there was no drinking in between. So it was I didn't pull out a wheat or a rye from my home bar to even try to do I guess a level set, right?
Yeah, I was tempted to look for a baseline and start pulling stuff out of there, but I decided to not do that and just go full on blind. And yeah, you got me on a bunch of these. I really thought it was Four Roses tasting.
Same. I had the same thought. I thought for sure there was at least some Four Roses in here.
Yeah. I did a classic overthinking on a bunch of these, though. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's so funny, and maybe I just enjoy being the man behind the drape for some of these, reading the notes and saying, oh, I see what they're thinking. I think, oh nope, they went off there. They started good at the nose and going through, and then it's like, oh no, they kind of lost it towards the end. But Ed actually said, Bly, that is, he goes, I think we have a lot of would you say dusty wheated in here?
I thought there were some dusties for sure, man, because some of the noses on these, I don't know, maybe it's entirely possible my palate is blown out today after sitting in a tree stand for 11 hours.
You've also been in a tree stand for 11 hours. No, you're right. You're right on a few of these. So we'll start at the bottom and work our way up a little bit. So sample number E, which had a combined score of 71.75, is Larceny. This is one where I don't know if I recommend this one fairly often. And even when I tried it, I was like, oh, maybe it's not as good as I remember. So I don't know, it was a little surprising it was that bad. A lot of the let me pull up some of the notes here. A lot of it, I think Kenny said craft. More craft stuff. Max said Hudson Baby Bourbon. Ed said small producer, maybe Garrison's, which I don't know. Do y'all? Am I the only one who recommends out Larceny as a good wheated bourbon option?
I've definitely said it before because it's nice, it's affordable, but yeah, the finish on it just killed it for me when I was drinking it.
Yeah, I recommend it all the time. Did anybody have a really rough entry on that? Like it just punched up front?
Yeah, the nose was kind of a little rough too, but the finish definitely is what threw me off. It was kind of dull, but I mean, for an average bourbon drinker, though, I don't think it's a bad recommendation at all. It's an easy drinker. Is it the best thing on the market? No, but is it right for the right price point of where it's at? Yeah, I think it's okay.
That's true because it's what's it, $25, $30 a bottle typically. So even at that, that price point, a 70, call it 72 for a $30 bottle is about what you would expect. And I should say one more thing before we continue too far. So here's how I had everyone rate these whiskeys. So we said 0 to 60 would be terrible, bottle should be destroyed. 61 to 70, bad, flavors off as a whole, but shows a few promise or a few redeeming notes. 71 to 80 is decent, could drink in a pinch, but probably more of a mixer. And I would probably put that in there.
Exactly.
81 to 85 is good. I want a bottle on my shelf as a daily drinker. 86 to 90 is really good. Everyone should buy a bottle. 91 to 95 is great. This is phenomenal. I would be willing to spend whatever it takes to get a bottle. And then 96 to 100 is perfect. This is everything you want in whiskey, and it has no flaws. So it's pretty stringent grading scale. I know people were hating on that a little bit on the first episode, but it's meant to be that way. I think we're kind of grading on a little bit of a curve here. So next up we have.
I mean, just about the Larceny again, real quick.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm actually kind of surprised, right? Because I tend to enjoy it, but honestly, I actually use all disclosure. My wife works for Heaven Hill, so we've got a few bottles of Larceny that just kind of trickle their way inside my household. But we typically use it for a lot of cocktails. That's typically what we use it for, and kind of my rating goes along with that. I put it as a 72, so. I just didn't think it was anything that I was super. I didn't think it was for me. I couldn't find myself drinking it every single day when I lined it up against a bunch of these. But I do remember it was the second one that I did taste out of everything we did. So it could have been bias of being first in line.
Yeah. What's the proof on Larceny?
92.
92.
Yeah. Yeah. Which that also kind of plays a point too of where you taste in, with something as many as 10 whiskeys to taste. I think where it falls on the night you're tasting them and everything can play a part as well. So it is always interesting to bring that in. Next up, with a score of 76, we have Rebel Yell 10-year. This was another one I recommended to a lot of people. And once again, 76 isn't terrible, but it had scores anywhere between 89 and 65. So any thoughts on that one?
What's the sample letter on that?
Yeah, what was the letter?
B.
That was B.
That was B.
B, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, this one for me, I thought this was actually the first one I sampled, the first one I tried, and it was I thought it was absolutely horrible. And you know what? It kind of goes in with my, and that's what I rated it to 65. So I gave it the lowest. I said it's old and funky, but not in a good way. It kind of had almost like a fungus taste to it. It almost kind of reminded me of the Parker's 24 that came out 2 years ago, where it just kind of like it was filtered through your grandma's panties, right? I just wasn't a big fan of it. So that's what I just said. I was like, it was tough to enjoy this one neat. I said the remaining finish has some hope, but other than that, couldn't do it.
So with this one, this was a very, very one that stood out to me a lot. I actually graded this one pretty high, Kenny. I went the opposite direction you went on this one. The reason being is this one has that fresh earth, that dried leaf, the fall smell that you find occasionally. I found it in Blanton's. I found it in the Pappy 25 year. I found it in this one. I found it in the 2012 Michter's 12 year or 10 year. I like that smell, but if you're not a fan of that, this is definitely not the one for you. I enjoy that because, truthfully, it makes me feel like I'm sitting up in a tree stand again. It's that smell, that earthiness, that rich earthiness. I like it, but I
would agree. This one does have a lot of those earthy notes, a lot of the leather, and I think it is like you said, Ed. You love it or hate it, and can be a polarizing one for sure. Ed Vargas, any thoughts on the sample B?
Yeah, I had a lot of those notes. I had the dusty oak on that and the wood, but really for this one, while it started off really nice, the finish killed it for me. And if there's a level of bitterness or tartness in a bourbon, it's going to rate really low on my list. And towards the end on that bourbon, as you get towards the finish of it, it really does go bitter and medicinal. And the finish killed it for me. I did grade it out at a 78, so it wasn't horrible, but it just didn't climb up any further on that scale. I liked it, but my big note here was just completely out of balance. It was just kind of all over the place. And that's where it suffered for me.
Which the interesting part is to see how many everyone has very similar tasting notes, but then it's like you hit the similar tasting notes, and then it goes to personal preference. It's like, well, either you don't like them, and like you said, Ed Vargas, hey, if it's bitter on the finish, I don't like it. If in that kind of thing. Max, what about you? What'd you think?
I didn't rate it very well. I gave it a 72, and honestly, I love this. I thought I loved this stuff. Like I had it on hand, like you said. I recommended it a few different times. I think this was one of the ones I tasted earlier today. One of my last-minute ones I had to squeeze in there, and I did have quite a few last night, so maybe that affected me a little bit. But
it is single barrel.
It is single barrel too, so that could be it as well. But yeah, I thought I would have rated it higher.
Yeah, and no, man, whenever I first got, because it is the batch one. Somebody asked that question. It's the batch one, and whenever I first got it in, I was like, man, this stuff is great. I think what was it, $45 or something a bottle?
Yeah, it was,
and maybe 50 or so. And I thought it was really good. So the single barrel plays a part too. I think that played a part in the first blind tasting we did with the Henry McKenna. But that's a part of it. That's the risk of buying a single barrel, I guess, is you never quite know. All right, we're gonna move on to number 3, or excuse me. So that'd be number 7. No, 8. Yeah, I'm counting backwards.
What kind of algorithm you got working on over there?
10, yeah, trying to make this thing as difficult as possible. Number 8 with a 79.5. A little disappointing to me, but it is a 1983 Maker's Mark. So an old dusty Maker's Mark. It came in, and that's letter L. Letter L. Yeah.
Okay.
Man. This is another one where
I feel like I nailed this one.
You actually did, Kenny. You actually did. Because Kenny, I'll read you what he thought it was. He said a National Distiller Dusty or Maker's Mark 40 Private 46 selection. So you hit the Dusty and you hit the Maker's Mark. So we're going to give credit. But so Ed Vargas, your guess was actually Barter House.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Talk about that, because one of your first notes is Dusty Oak,
right?
And I feel like I get a lot of that from it. So
yeah, it has I think my original notes were it's got a great nose. It smells really promising, and I was kind of excited. And Dusty Oak and sorghum had lots of brown sugar, cherry cola, and I was like, hey, this is gonna be great. And when I got into it, this one, it's just the entry is thin and tart. And there was just nothing up front that was exciting, and it just went downhill from there. Just thin, tart, very little flavor, and it just really disappointed. And I said it's the definition of nothing. It really has almost no taste, except bitter all the way through. So yeah, that I killed this when I gave it I think I gave it a Mercy 70 on the top end of bad. And I drank a lot of those Dusties. I own a couple of those Dusty Maker's Marks. Oh my God. Anybody want to buy some old Dusties?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'll buy them for the sticker price that you have on them right now.
Or trade a Barter House.
So that was my thinking. Like, all those orphan barrels have like this really good nose, but they're so underproofed because they're trying to stretch out all the bottles count on that a lot of times they just go really thin. And so it was like nice nose, thin body, and I just kind of got fixated on that. I should have, I think I've only guessed one wheater in the entire tasting here.
What was the average on that one again, Blake?
So it was 79.5.
79.5.
I must have been a curve killer on it.
Yeah, you curved it.
Yeah,
So
I think I put a.
You put a 75, Max, and then
I had a 75.
At an 80.
I got to duck out here, guys. I got to grab another bottle.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I put this one pretty high. I think I put this one as a 93, I think.
See, and I actually thought there would be a lot more of those, 85 to 90 range. And so when it started coming in a little bit lower, I'm like, man, I really like this stuff. But I don't know. It goes to show you, like, the Dusty, it may be a little more you're drinking the lore and the history of it all. Ed, what'd you think?
I thought it was tasty.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, how long has that one been open, Blake?
Probably almost a year.
Yeah.
So
I think it was a lot. I felt like when I tasted it, it felt like it was oxidized a little bit.
That would explain it.
Yeah.
But I thought it was super tasty. I like that flavor though, but I've always leaned heavy towards on Dusty Makers. Some of the best bourbon I've ever had was the '60s Maker's Mark. Late '60s. It was incredible, like motor oil, and I think a lot of times it's like a witch's hat when you're looking at it. Like, go back to the old English method. You got your entry, and then as you open it up, it takes a while for it to open up, and then it'll decline back down again. And I think in this case, it just tasted a little oxidized to me. But I thought it was really tasty. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, this is one of my favorites. So if anybody's looking to unload some Dusty Makers,
go ahead and send
go ahead and just hit me up. Yeah.
I got some gold wax. It's going to cost you, though.
I got one of those too.
None of that in this tasting. Yeah, I don't like you guys that much. All right. Well, let's see, Max, did you talk about this one?
This was another one, the other one that I also reviewed today. So I might have been a little skewed on that one, but I gave it a 75. My notes were that it was just, same, that it was light. I had a little toffee. I had some wood from it, a little vanilla bean, a real short finish. I felt like it was just very, very light, very soft.
Which it is 90 proof, and but a lot of times I think that's the great thing about Dusty's is how much flavor and fuller they taste at 90 and 86 proof than some of the newer bourbons. Got
less water in them.
Yeah, who knows what that barrel entry proof could have been back then, but all right. So the next one, which will probably be a little surprising to most. At least in the Bourbonr groups. It is sample D, got a 79.75, and it is a 2016 Old Rip Van Winkle 10-year.
Whoa.
So Pappy 10 is not at the top of the charts, unfortunately, guys.
That was a 79?
That was 79.75, yep. So it actually... Yeah, no, that was because it was a pretty tight range. So the top was 85 and the bottom was 72. So no real high or low. Let me scroll down to the some of the thoughts. Max, what do you think on D?
D. Okay, here it is. I gave it an 80. D. Yeah, I put a star by that one, thinking I actually originally had it higher. I had an 85, and when I went back and tasted it, I scribbled it out and I lowered it to an 80. I gave it good. I got some cherry from it. I thought it was very floral. I got some oak, definitely some tannins in there. I wrote cherry twice, so I definitely must have got some cherry from there. I guessed it was 4 roses. I'm gonna pour some more right now and see how I feel about it. I still got a little left.
So Ed, you actually came in with the lowest. Ed Bly came in with the lowest of a 72. What do you think on this one?
I thought it was.
He's just trying to kill the hype. That's all he's trying to do.
Yeah.
He knew exactly what it was.
Stop calling the store.
Yeah, now every time I get this store, guys, this is rated like 72. It's a daily drinker at best.
I thought it was totally disconnected. I didn't think it. Ed had described it earlier to where he said that it just was completely unbalanced. The nose was great, and it fell apart from there for me. I did not like the finish at all, and the mid palate was very, very thin to me almost. It was not my favorite for sure. But then again, it's also my least favorite of all the Van Winkle lines. So I guess it kind of all translates.
Yeah. So Ed Vargas actually had one of the closest guesses here. He said OWA 107. And Kenny actually said it's got to be a Buffalo Trace product. So I'm going to let you two battle it out for who actually was closest on guessing this.
Well, I'm closest.
Yeah.
It's the same, isn't it? I mean, on the Old Rip?
It's the same. It's, just a few years different. So 107. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Good.
I like that one. And I think Blake had to fix my input here because I think I was 4 or 5 samples in on that one, and I wasn't sure what I was drinking it, and I had inputted all of my information on the wrong lines. But I really liked it. I let it set for a while, and it kind of got better in the glass. The butterscotch on the nose jumped out at me, and that's what kind of tipped me off. It was a wheater. That's really weird because these were all wheaters, and I should have been pulling a lot more butterscotch out of all these samples, but I wasn't. But I really liked it. I thought the body on it was really good. It was one of the more full flavored ones, and the balance was good. I just really liked it. It held up to water pretty nicely too. So you got a little bit more character come out with water. So yeah, I like that one. That was one of my higher scores, was 85 in the whole tasting, and I like that a lot. So I thought it was a wheated Buffalo Trace product at 107. So I think I'm pretty good there.
Yeah.
What year was this produced?
So this was a 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I'll go ahead and give my argument because I thought I was pretty damn close too. So I did say it was a BT product, but I also said I'm guessing around 110 proof. So I was only 3 proof points off in my guess. And that's an actual guess, not just guessing a label, right? So that was pretty. But for me, I actually just poured the rest of my sample out here, and I'm going back and kind of look at my notes, and I wrote that it was kind of hot on the nose with all the alcohol. And that's kind of like one of the things that I really looked at when I was doing a lot of these is like, how far do I get my nose in here where it actually starts burning and like starting to siphon off brain fumes, right? And this one, like, sometimes I'll put my nose right in there, and this was one that if I did that, yeah, you get a lot of that sensation that's hurting right away. And so that's when you kind of got to take it back. You got to wait a few minutes, let your sense readjust, come back. And, I was like, a little bit of black pepper in there. But for me, I was smelling it and thinking, of course, this seems like a Buffalo Trace product, but also has just a lot of characteristics of just generic bourbon, right? Leather, caramel, tobacco, blah, 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 right? So, yeah, I thought it was, and my last comment was, I said it's good, but not that good.
And I think that's a fair assessment from everyone on that.
Yeah.
It is very good, but should people be driving hundreds of miles and paying $350 every single time?
No.
Yeah.
Hell no.
Very good. All right, we're gonna keep it moving here.
Ed Bly alone.
Yeah. Stop calling his store. So next up is sample A. It scored an 82.25, and it is a 2016 Weller 12. So I actually wanted to get two Weller 12s in here from different years to see how they would do. But then I didn't want to open up. I just opened up a Weller 12 like 2 weeks ago, so I'm like, I don't want to have 2 open at the same time. So that's sample A is a Weller 12 from 2016. Scroll down and see. Ed Vargas, what were your thoughts on this one?
This is one where I classically overthought it. Have we done B yet? We haven't disclosed sample B.
Yes,
Not yet.
It was Rebel B as in boy.
Oh yeah, it was.
B
That
as
was
in
Rebel
boy.
Yell 10.
Yeah, that was Rebel 10.
Was that Rebel 10?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When I first tasted it, I thought it was Weller, but I talked myself out of it. I thought it was very young. I had it down as young. My initial taste on the entry on the palate was young and tart. Tart from the start, tart to the finish. I had it thin, herbal, and green. It had like fake notes like cherry Robitussin cough syrup. And, you know, it was on initial pass through not really great. You know, I ultimately scored it out as an 80. So I thought it was decent. It took water fairly nicely, which figured into the final score. Had I not watered it, it probably would have been lower than 80. But yeah, I mean, it was okay, but it was not great. The nose was probably the best thing on it.
Max, what'd you think?
I was way off on this one, which is weird because I love Weller 12 and have a shit ton of them. But I pulled some stone fruit from it. My notes, I got stone fruit, nutmeg. I said it was definitely lower proof. I guessed it was younger, 6 to 8 years is what I wrote. Oak, little tart, got a little mint on there. But I guessed it was Bell Mead, which is like not even remotely close to Weller 12.
Which it's so funny, like
Blind.
There are a lot of bourbons. I'm like, oh, I would pick this out blind, but then you taste blind and you're tasting with 9 other samples, and it's just completely throws off your mind, and you have a tendency to overthink it, underthink it, all this stuff.
Yeah, so. I overthought all of these.
Yeah, that's
sat down. I was like total silence. Turn the TV off. Like
I'm screwing with you and putting like some rare craft bourbons in here or something like that.
Hey, that Larceny, I could have sworn that was some craft thing.
Yeah, I mean, what about you?
It was funny, when we were guys talking about like, can you guess everything? I'm sitting there doing out my samples, and I'm going like looking at my bar. I'm just looking at labels, thinking like, is there anything that even remotely strikes any of this stuff, right? So that it was incredibly hard. Like I didn't get good at guessing any of these.
No.
And you know what? To be honest, this one is, I don't know. So if we roll back the hands of time a few years, where we could get Weller 12, and for me it was sort of as I was entering a lot of the bourbon world, didn't even really mess with a whole lot of barrel proofs back then, 4, 5, 6 years ago, and getting Weller 12 was actually pretty easy. I mean, I've got tons of bottles downstairs, and I honestly I never drink it anymore. It's the last time I went to go drink it, I had it and I was like, I don't even like this anymore. So my taste buds have been changing over the years to kind of not go towards this route. So I gave it an 83, which is kind of right in the middle of where this one was graded. But for me, it was kind of weird. I tasted it, and by the way, the only one that I have open downstairs is a raised wheat, like 1 liter down there. So that's kind of like the Weller 12 that I'm working with. But when I tasted this, it was like I had like a shot of like espresso is kind of what I got out of it. So I was kind of surprised that was the note that I got out. Now that it's especially a Weller 12, I don't think I should have gotten that. But who knows? It could have been the gummy bears I was eating beforehand or something.
They had nothing. Sour Patch Kids improved the palate, so
they pair well.
Yeah, and it was funny that at the very end I said, definitely not a daily drinker, and not sure if I really want it. But I've got 10 bottles sitting down in the basement.
Okay, well, it's time to unload those 10 bottles then. So obviously you don't want it. So.
Make room for all those dusty makers, fellas.
Yeah. Ed Bly?
I liked it. Flat out, I liked it. I thought it was great. It's easily balanced. I guess if you're looking at proof and you're comparing barrel proof bourbons and 90 proof bourbons, I guess you're looking for different qualities. And I knew it was lower proof right off the rip when I tasted it. But I liked it. It did not give me that cat tongue feeling, so it wasn't super dry to me at all. It didn't hit me on the sides of the tongue. It didn't impress me as young or anything like that. It's not real ethanol forward to me. It's very just well balanced. It's an easy drinker. and it's very flavorful for the proof. I enjoyed it a lot. I scored it at, what was it, an 89 on this one.
Mm-hmm.
See, I mean, isn't that what we're looking for in wheaters, though? Anyway, I mean, we're looking for the ease of drinkability. I mean, that's
it depends.
why the wheat's in the mash bill.
Yeah, to a degree, but I mean, then you look at like William Lou Weller. That's the completely opposite direction. I mean, I guess you got to appreciate each one for the proof and be able to appreciate lower proof stuff and higher proof at the same time. Yeah. It's to me, it's very solid. It's just an easy sipper and an even keel all the way through.
I'm with you there. I still drink a lot of Weller 12 actually. Just not because it's gotten harder to drink it consistently, just how hard it's getting to find, but it just is a really good bourbon in my mind. Is it that 95 rating? No, but I just think it's really well balanced. It's sweet forward, all that stuff. So I'm kind of with you on that one. All right, let's move on. Go ahead.
We maybe expect Weller 12 to be more than it really is these days because it's so hard to get and it's so over-traded on the secondary market. We're like, oh, it should be better than what I remember.
Well, that's the thing is, so think about it 5 years ago, 4 years ago even, we'd probably be comparing, well, Larceny wasn't around, but it would be about the same. It would be in about the same range as like a Larceny, and I was paying $33 a bottle consistently. So that is a good point. Is we've probably made it to maybe a little more than what it is when it's just it's
a good everyday sipper.
Yeah,
like
I
said.
Yeah. All right.
Well, realistically, it's almost exactly. Well, not exactly, but real daggone close to the same price as the Larceny. It's really not that far off.
No, if you get it at retail, it's But then, I mean, what are people paying for it? Probably $100+ a bottle, and I can't imagine you'd be anything but disappointed if you.
The thirst is real. The thirst is real.
What's the proof point on Weller 12? I don't even remember.
90.
90. Okay.
Yeah, it's 90. All right. So that was sample A. So sample MK.
MK.
One I thought would do a little better, but pretty good. Middle of the pack. Let's see, we're at 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 5. So dead center. MK is Maker's Cask Strength, and this is the 111.6. So one of the first variations second variation after the 46 that Maker's Mark came out with. Wheated bourbon as well. Probably what are they saying? 6 to 7 year range on that one. And let's see. Who wants to go first on this one?
I can take it.
My notes screen it's cask strength, and I called it Knob Creek 120.
Okay. Yeah. Because Kenny called it a craft distiller. So that little craft distiller in Loretto, Kentucky.
I liked it. I gave it an 87. It was a lot of cinnamon, a lot of vanilla, orange and dark cherry, like the Dr. Pepperish type of sweetness on the palate. It was really good. Held up the water and took a lot, and I just thought it was a nice solid bourbon. I'm gonna have to drink more cask strength.
See, I think I read into it too much, right? So my initial thought was that this vial that he had sent was the only one that was filled to the top. That means it's got to be something that sucks, and he's just trying to get rid of it.
Well, you know what? So on those, I was filling them, and I'm like, you 4 times 10 samples. I'm like trying to make sure everything's level because I'm like, what if people really do look at that? If I fill one of these half, they're gonna know it's something. And I thought I did a great job of getting pretty much everything across the board. And I go to read Kenny's notes, and it's like, this one was full to the top. Blake must be trying. And then one later where he's like, this one was a little bit lower. He probably got stingy on this one or something.
No. But it's for me, oddly enough, I actually like Maker's Mark cask strength. For me, I don't like it in the cask strength form. I usually like to add just like a drop or two of water to kind of open it up. But for me, when I smelled this, I thought the nose was unique on it because You could definitely get a lot of that high proof burn that you kind of expect from that. Max, quit moving around, man. You're making too much noise.
He's getting back into the role of host again. He's gonna start muting people in a second.
I know it's like the podcast of me. I'm just like, I got to cut this out, right? So, but it almost had like it was the only one that was unique in the fact that it almost had like a honeysuckle nose to it. Like it was something that it was odd that I could pick that out, but that's really what I got out of it. But then when I tasted it, I thought it had almost like a cigar smoke or like a pipe smoke to it. So I thought that was kind of unique. I thought the finish fell off pretty quickly. Still lots of alcohol. I think that's where you get the nice little cat anus there. Like around 110 proof is kind of where that comes from, right? I definitely whiffed when it came to actually guessing, though, calling it a craft distiller. So.
Max, what about you? You actually had the lowest rating on this one.
Yeah, I gave it a 74. I pulled some cinnamon from it. I actually wrote rye ? So there's no rye in that at all. But I got some vanilla and some caramel. I got some cinnamon. I wrote faint oak. I didn't think it was very old. Call me crazy, but I wrote banana. Got a little banana from it. And I guessed it was something from Brown-Forman. So I'm surprised at that too. I like this. This is enlightening.
Completely messing with your head. Yeah.
Yeah, and that one, I was like, this is the only one that's 2 letters. So I tried that one first. That was the very first one I tried, and then all the rest were just random whenever I grabbed off the counter. But that was the very first one I did. So maybe that brought it down for me. I don't know.
Yeah, and the only reason it's 2 letters is because my daughter's first name is 2 first names, so that's the initials. Yeah, there's no real rhyme or reason to that, but
yeah. So we all look at these weird, the fill level, what letter it is.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually glad you did that, because if you didn't, then whatever with W would have been kind of messed up. So you could have looked at it as a W or an M.
That's why I had to rearrange a little bit whenever I was going through.
So you mean you actually planned this stuff out then?
Slightly, just 5 minutes here and there. But all right, Ed, I think everyone knows what to get Ed for Christmas, and it just needs to be wheated bourbon, because he liked this one too. So
I did like this one. This one threw me way off. This, when you were asking me what I thought, and I told you I thought you spent a little money on this tasting. This one actually reminded me a lot of the MB Roland. It is the most unique bottle of Makers that I've ever tasted, hands down. If that is, I've never had a cask strength Makers that's tasted like that. So I don't know how you got that bottle or what's special about it, but it's freaking amazing. It really does. It does have that dusty nose to it. So I can see why these guys are pulling the craft distillery out on their notes on it for sure. But on the same level, I thought it was really damn tasty. It threw me off. I couldn't pinpoint this one at all. I wasn't certain what it was. But it did remind me a lot of the MB Roland.
This is one where I bought it for the tasting and poured the samples and everything, and I had a small pour. I've gone back to it at least 3 more times since pouring the samples, and I'm like, man, it's just really good. I know not everyone else, but I'm with Ed on this one. I thought it was really good.
It's tasty.
All right, we're getting into the top 4 here. So this is where things get a little more interesting. So number 4 with 83 points is a Old Weller Antique, a ABC store pick from Old Weller Antique. So it's a new bottle, 83. That's letter J for the samples. Let's see. So 83, high of 90, low of 74. So this one had some people. Is there someone talking in the background, or is that just me?
I hear it.
Okay. No.
But is it me?
I thought like my son had snuck out of bed or something. I'm looking around.
Wow.
That's it.
How was I on this one?
it wouldn't be a Bourbonr live video unless some kids were crying or screaming in the background. So.
Yeah, it looks like this.
They all scattered.
You are in the living room.
All right, so letter J, OWA store pick from ABC. We actually had 2 Four Roses picks on this one. So Ed, what'd you think of this one? Because you were kind of middle of the pack with an 83.
It was okay. It definitely wasn't my favorite OWA I've ever had. That's for sure. I didn't know what it was when I tasted it. Now that you tell me it really emphasizes what I was tasting. It was
Makes more sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I mean, $35 bottle. It is what it is, but it's not. It was pretty easy. It was spicy, but the back end on it was a wreck to me. I did not enjoy the back end on it, but that's why I graded it a little bit lower.
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty. I mean, it's an easy drinker. Everybody should have a bottle of it, but I don't know necessarily it's one that you want to trade for $150 or anything.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the theme of tonight is you probably don't want to trade that for $150. Max, what'd you think? This was another Four Roses pick for you.
Yep,
That
I
Four
gave
Roses
that one. I must just be biased towards Four Roses, but I gave that one an 85. I actually am bummed. I didn't get one of those. I missed 2 by a couple minutes fighting those ABC people. Let's see. I gave that. Yeah, I got light, definitely a low rye or maybe wheated. I wrote sweet, fruity. That's fruity taffy, red fruit, strawberry. The finish I thought was pretty short. It wasn't amazing, but I liked it. I gave it an 85, and same thing. I have a bunch of the Weller store picks, so I'm happy with that. I think that's a pretty good score considering if you can get it, it's 27 to $28.
Yeah,
it's pretty high for what that is.
Max, another Florida guy, so he knows the ABC love-hate relationship that everyone had.
Indeed, it's a love-hate relationship. Like yes.
Yeah. All right. So Ed Vargas, you are pulling up the curve here. You give it a 90 in I guess a Four Roses OESF. I like the exactness of the selection. What'd you think?
I was cocksure on that one, wasn't I? I mean, I was cocky about that.
I thought you were going to say OESF 11-year warehouse ME location.
Ed Bly picked this one on a bad day. I like this one a lot, and it was the herbalness of it kind of threw me, and it had a really balance between the sweetness and the herbal qualities of it, and was just sure that it was an OE. The sweetness, I thought it was definitely higher corn and lower of the flavoring grains, but it completely threw me off on that one. I could have swore it was a single barrel pick of one of the specific recipes. It was really good. I liked it. It had like nice fruity qualities along with the herbal ones. It had a really nice mix in there, and a Weller 107 store pick. Completely threw me off. But I thought it was a good one at 90.
Interesting. All right, Kenny, you had a.
I destroyed this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if Ed brought up the curve, Kenny brought down the curve.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know what it is, but y'all need to get somebody in check at ABC to pick better barrels. Like if this is the best that they can choose. Like I pretty much.
I don't. That's sweet. It's delicious.
No,
this is one.
You don't know what you're talking about.
If you're in the Rick house, you just say, "No, we're walking home without a barrel." Is that what you're gonna say?
When we interviewed Bo about that, he said there's only one person that's ever actually done that and never chosen the barrels that they put out there. So it can be done, and it has been done, right? Now, for me,
you get asked back.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, I was not a fan of this at all. And I actually just took the last of it and poured it in here. And I am going to go ahead and reaffirm my evaluations that it is no bueno. I put, even after what WF, WV, and D, which we've gone through. Actually, we haven't gone through all those. So I think this is even behind the Old Rip. I put this in the back of the pack in regards to the nose. I said, and honestly, this is kind of like the first time I've ever done this. I said in the nose, I'm like, it smells like the crust of a Pop-Tart, but not the inside where the good stuff is. So it's like it's just bland. There's nothing there for me, right? In the taste, at the very front of it, like when you first get it in your mouth, I'm like, oh, it's Coca-Cola. And then as you're drinking it, I'm like, oh, it's like if Coca-Cola had a little bit of bleach mixed into it. So I didn't think it was like that good. I think it drank very hot, a little bit of mint chocolate on the finish, but I didn't think it was that good. I did say it was around 100 proof was my guess, but threw it in at a 74. Just wasn't a fan of this pick.
Yeah, to each his own, I guess, which is funny how, I don't think we have any guys who are new to bourbon by any means in this group, but people's preferences are different. So always fun to see that come out in a blind tasting. All right, we're going to keep it moving because we're going on 50 minutes now. So number 3 is with an 84.75 is letter P, and P as in Maker's Mark Private Pick from Browdy's Liquors in Jacksonville and St. Augustine, Florida. So the big thing is going to be with this. If you're unfamiliar with the Maker's Mark Private Picks, you get 10 different staves you can put in 5 different types of staves, and you can pick 10 of them. So with this one, they have 3 baked American Pure 2, 1 seared French, and Ed Bly is going to have to help me on that French
Cuvée.
Okay. And then 1 Maker's 46, 4 roasted French mocha, and 1 toasted French spice. And also, quick thank you to Browdy's. I put this one in there because I really like their Maker's Pick, and they also sold me the Old Rip Van Winkle for retail, so I didn't have to pay too much to get this blind tasting set up.
I see how that works now.
Really nervous about that. Yeah. So if y'all didn't rate it in the top 3, I was just going to fudge the numbers and no. But so, anyone's thoughts on Maker's Mark Private Picks?
I honestly, for me, I think I'm really happy with what Maker's Mark has been doing with this program. I think it is something that brings something that's very unique in regards of being different than anybody else that's the big guys or even the small people that are out there that are doing just private barrels, right? Mm-hmm. Sure, I mean, private barrels are easy to do, but I know Ed's done a 46 pick. I personally haven't done a 46 pick, but I've seen a little bit behind the scenes of what goes into it. I know there's a lot of tasting of the individual staves and then trying to figure out a blend. I mean, it's something that you're going to have, tons and tons of variations of whatever it is. And so you're going to have an opportunity to try a lot of different things that can fall into this category that are going to not necessarily all taste the same, right? I mean, just one stave is going to make a big difference in the outcome of what it is. For me, it was kind of funny you showed the empty bottle because my initial thoughts were, oh, this one isn't filled very much. That means he went sparing on it, right? So,
but I didn't want to crack a brand new bottle for it. I'm like, this is just gonna work.
It made it through. But my initial thoughts, or sorry, the nose on it for me, and I've just poured the rest of it myself. Or, it's very dense. There's not like a whole lot of aromatics that are coming out of it, but if for what it is, it's a lot of those dried fruits. It's the figs, it's raisins, it's leather, and then the spice. I put a little bit of spice, very light on the citrus side, but I guess that the proof was probably around 110,
112.
So
pretty good.
I'm sleuthing it out over here.
Yeah. So Ed Bly, as someone who has picked a Maker's barrel, what are your thoughts on, you kind of go in there, you taste everything different, you get your blend together, and then you wait, 12 weeks? Oh, hold on. I think
he's on mute or talking on mute.
Hello?
Can't hear you, buddy.
Yeah, nothing.
Hello? Hello? Oh, can you hear me now?
There he is. I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
There you
Yes, I
go.
can.
There we go.
All right. Sorry about that.
No problem.
That Maker's pick was one of the most complex picks I've ever done.
Yeah.
There's literally, no joke, 1,001 different stave combinations. It is absolutely insane, and every single stave makes a huge difference in the end product. I thought it was really tasty, and now that you've revealed the stave combinations, it makes a lot of sense for what I was tasting. The mocha and the spice stave, the spice is kind of bitter, and the mocha is really tannic, so that's why it's got such a dry finish to it for a wheater.
Mhm.
Gosh, it was so complex. It took two of us almost 5 hours to do that pick. And there was a group of 12 that was there before us the day before, and I think they're still there now. I mean, it's really a whole bunch of preference. And then what you're doing is you're picking out. So they have barrels that they've done with one barrel that has one type of stave and 10 total staves in it. And they've done it for each one of the 5 different staves. So you can see what type of influence those staves have on the actual maker's mark. And then you've got like what looks like a little poker board in front of you with poker chips, and you're putting stave combinations down there, and they're making a little vat for you to try this stuff. And you're kind of basing what you think the barrel is going to be like when it's done off of what you're tasting on the vat.
Wow.
It's extremely complex, but I will say this: makers, chemists are top notch. I mean, what they've done and the way they've set this up, it's really damn accurate on how it turns out. It's now we've done 3 different barrels of the same stave recipe and 1 barrel of a different one. I'm on my 4th barrel of it now, and every one of them's different. But you could tell the 3 that were done with the same stave combinations, there's not a huge variance between them. There's definitely a slight variance, but not an enormous one. So the chemists down there that came up with this stuff, it's fantastic, the program they did, and it's next level. So I'm real happy with that. And there's been rumors that they may be coming out with more staves. So we'll see what happens.
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, Ed, do you know if they ever said like what are the amount of combinations that you could possibly do? I mean, is it like 10,000 unique variations or something?
I believe it was 1,001.
1,000.
Well, yeah. I mean, you think, what's the math? So 5 different staves with 10 different options. So it's 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times, or 10 to the 5th power. Is that correct?
I don't know. I don't do math. You're the finance guy.
I'll leave that to you. Like,
is there a statistician in the comment section? I think that would be right. Though 10 to the 5th power would be, you have 10 different staves. I don't know. My wife's an Algebra 2 teacher. I may wake her up in a second to see what we got.
Sure, she'd appreciate it.
Yeah. She'd love it. Ed Vargas.
Help.
Yeah. Ed Vargas, what'd you think?
I gave this one a 90. I really liked it a lot. I thought it was subtle, floral on the nose, but I worked it and I really liked it a lot. It had just all kinds of character on the palate. It was just all kinds of things coming out. Really liked it a lot. I spent a lot of time with it. I think it was the one that I drank the most of. Any left in my sample bottle. But I thought the flavor on that's really good. And we were offered a barrel pick on this, and it's a little daunting task when we started looking at that and the bottle count you get out of that as a private club, and you're looking at purchasing like what, 210, 80, $90 a pop. You know, it's a lot. It's a lot. It was a huge investment. We looked at that. We really weren't sure. This is one of the better ones I've ever tasted. Ed is really, really good too. I've had a bunch of stinkers though, and I just think I could see why you would have to spend a lot of time on that. Reassuring to know that like tasting room was what you're going to get out. Is that what you're telling us, Ed Bly?
Yeah, so you're picking the barrel before it's actually made. It's wild.
Does it stay pretty true to form coming out?
Yeah, it's pretty close. It's not exact, but like I was saying, the chemists down there have really got it nailed down as best they can. It's really, really daggone close.
This is a good combination, and they did a really good job. They should be commended on that one for sure.
Max, let's see, Max, where'd you fall on this one? Yeah, you had an 81, so you enjoyed it as well.
Definitely, I enjoyed it. I pulled pepper, leather, cinnamon, sugar, I wrote burnt caramel, slight plum. My guess was that it was going to be a baker's, which I didn't guess any of these right, but at least that's not completely out of the realm. I enjoyed it. I really like the makers, their private selections. I've had a couple of them. There's been a few that have been out in the Tampa area. Anchor Bar did one. Gasper's did one that was really, really good. There's a couple more I'm hearing about that are supposed to be coming soon, so I'm going to definitely be picking that up. And I think I might know someone in your neck of the woods, so maybe I'll grab one of those if they're still around.
Hold on, who's my neck of the woods?
Yeah.
Oh no! Actually, no one's allowed to come and hunt bourbon in my neck of the woods. It's been officially blocked off.
It's cordoned off.
That's a no-fly zone. There's too many people up here. Very good. All right, so now we're moving on to number 2 with an 86.5. So 86.5. It's sample W, and it is a Weller 12 from 2017, the new label.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I saw it back there, and I've been wondering when that was going to get pulled up.
Everyone who said, they dropped the quality with the new label, you're wrong, and we have it.
Bunch of idiots.
It is interesting because actually, so Ed didn't send me a guess on this one, but everyone else guessed Four Roses. So
Yeah.
it's
Crazy.
It's really interesting that all 3 of you said Four Roses as the guess. So Max, you want to jump in? I know you just went, but
yeah, W. I gave that an 80. Did I do 85 on that? I think
you're at 84.
84. Okay, that is the second or third highest that I rated. I definitely enjoyed that one. I think I messaged you at some point and even said something about W. Yeah, I get a rich, dark fruit, mild pepper, sugar, rock candy, plums, cherry, short finish. I said the finish was unremarkable, but it was very soft and sweet. I'm shocked that it did so much better than the other one.
Yeah,
and I'm shocked that that's number 2 off there. That surprises me, but I enjoy Weller 12 normally. Like I said, I'm definitely a buyer of the product, so nice to see it fare so well.
Yeah, I didn't want to give anything away whenever we were talking earlier about the Weller 12, but it is funny how it's 1 year difference, and I mean it was a pretty significant difference that everyone had. Kenny, what'd you think?
For me, I was trying to think of a good analogy, but the only thing I could think of is so you find a girl, you hit on her, and everything's going great, and
this
then
is a good analogy.
and then you get her in bed, and then you realize that she only has one leg, right? Because I thought the nose on this was fantastic. I mean, I was very Four Roses, fruity, sweet molasses, oak. I even said cotton candy. But when I went to actually taste it, it was kind of whatever. There's some typical things like caramel. There's some tannins along the way. But and some oak as well. I scored an 81. But like I said, I think the nose, I'm still going at it. I could still think the nose is fantastic, but the taste just wasn't all the way there for me. And that might have been not the most PC analogy, but I'm just saying that's kind of the best thing I could possibly think of.
It falls in that. It works. It works.
There must be something with drinking a lot of bourbon and then give personification to stuff.
So yeah. Kenny, you actually had both Wellers ranked within a point of each other, which is interesting. You had the 2016 at an 83 and the 2017 at an 82. I think that may be the closest in. That's.
Told you, it's my tastes have changed, right? So
yeah,
and my taste in women as well. Both legs. I like both legs.
Ed Bly, what were your thoughts on it? Let me pull up.
So I gave it an 85.
Okay.
I thought it was tasty. I gave the first one an 89.
Mm.
They were pretty close. How long has this one been open? Do you have an idea?
So this one a few more months, about 3 months.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought they were both solid.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a pretty good representation of what you got there. So
So the 2016 and the 2017 Weller 12 were opened on the same day, because I did a tasting with like 5 different Weller 12s, and they were all opened on the same day. So basically everything I have was open in the last few months, except for I guess just the makers, the Dusty Makers. That was open about a year ago. Everything else has been opened up recently or opened up fresh for this. So, Ed Vargas, you look like you're going back to it. Trying to.
So no, I pulled what I had left of the other Weller 12, the sample A, and just comparing the nose on both of these bourbons, it's like a completely different whiskey.
Yeah.
And the sample 12, the 2017 Weller 12, the nose is amazing. It's like fruity. It's a Four Roses, very fruity Four Roses nose. It has like that deep, rich, like apricot and dark cherry, and just it jumps out. And that's, I think I guessed Al Young on this one because it did have age on it. You could taste the age on it, but the nose just jumped off at me. I was like Four Roses. It's crazy. I gave it a 95. I love this one. This is my favorite.
Time to go get a bottle. The hype is real again. Here we go.
Yeah, the hype is real. 2017. Bunker that stuff.
Yeah.
There's the shelf.
This is the vintage you want to store. Yeah.
Almost to the point where like I would question if they might have changed their yeast somewhere along the way.
Kenny, can we get that in an interview podcast with Harlan Wheatley or something?
Yeah, I think you all know very well enough that they are not going to say a goddamn thing about that. So.
Yeah.
They'll be like, this was done 12 years ago. I think half the staff is gone. So
yeah. That is very true. All right, so the final and number one sample that everyone has been waiting for, and I can't tell you how excited I am that this was number one. There was no trickery in this, but it is sample V, and sample V scored an 87.5, so a full point above number 2. And sample V
it's in a magic bullet.
A blended up version of Poor Man's Pappy.
You got us.
The lore of Poor Man's Pappy continues on.
Oh my God.
I will continue to claim rights as the namer of
Did you really magic bullet it though?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Because I've done this in a blind tasting before where I tasted we tasted Rip Van Winkle 10-year, Lot B, Weller 12, Poor Man's Pappy, and blended Poor Man's Pappy, blended one with like 4 out of 5 tasters. So I was like, I'll throw this in here again to see what happens. And I think Max actually messaged me and was like, man, there's some really good stuff in here. I'm tasting sample V right now, and it's incredible. Yeah. And
I was like, whatever it is, better not be too expensive because I'm going to have to go buy it.
Well, the most expensive thing with this is actually the Ninja Bullet that I had to blend it in. So
that's hilarious. Yeah, well, I'm gonna need that exact recipe.
Oh yeah,
just tell it what it was. What was the recipe?
So the recipe was just 60-40 Weller 12 to Weller Antique, and I used both 2017 bottles because I figured if it did do well and somebody wanted to recreate it, 2017 would be the most likely. So just 60-40 Weller 12 to Weller Antique, and blended it for about 20 seconds, pulsed it a couple times, and put it into your sample bottles. So
you mixed it immediately prior to bottling? It didn't sit for a month or something?
It didn't sit, just mixed it up. I actually brought out my scale and mixed it directly into the my little container here. And I don't know what I mixed. Actually, I had to pull this out of the dishwasher because we used it for something else since I did the bourbon in it. Yeah. So that was it.
Wow.
So I don't, and I'm sure there's somebody who can explain, just aeration or something on that. But
Got a little lift.
there's a little something to it. I was talking to somebody from Four Roses, and they were talking about blending their the small batch limited editions, and they were saying how it just these big vats just sprays the bourbon and blends them together. And I really think there's something to that. I don't know what. I'm sure somebody else much smarter than me and much more knowledgeable could say it. But well, let's get some initial thoughts. So the differential in this was from 93 with Kenny to 83 with Ed Vargas. So Ed Vargas, let's start with you. What'd you think on this one?
I mean, 83, I liked it. I definitely own that. Didn't like as much as W. It wasn't. I think I had at the entry. It was a little lighter up front. But now that you tell me it's a blend, it has all the same notes. Oddly, it was the only one that I got a cocoa note out of it. It's the same whiskey as 3 of the other samples in the tasting. But all my tasting notes are right there along. You go back and you start looking across all the Weller samples in the Old Rip samples. You're starting to see a pattern. Let's see what I have here. I thought there's a bit of tartness in it. Again, that's kind of that will kill you on my palate. And there was a bit of tartness in the mid palate and kind of hung around. It kind of tasted like a watermelon rind type of thing, and it kind of threw me off. But I liked all the other aspects of it, and I gave it an 83. I actually thought it was a Elijah Craig store pick. I did find it very rich, both on the nose and the palate, but the tartness on that kind of threw me off and accounted for the lower score of 83. Take that out of there, I probably would have scored it up there closer to 90, but still, a solid pick at 83. Good. I would, that's on the I want to own a bottle range, but very good. You got me on that one. Didn't see that one coming at all. That was great.
It had a change up in there. All right, Ed has to be up at 4 a.m. to go hunting, so we're going to let him get his notes in here really quick before he falls asleep.
I liked it. When I nosed to the right up front, I got like the bubble gum, the oak, the vanilla, the honey. It reminded me a lot of the old style Blanton's. It was kind of wild. I get a lot of that stuff on the Blanton's bottles also. I thought it was really tasty. I gave it an 85. I actually scored it exactly the same as the 17 Weller 12. They were pretty tasty, both of them. I think you did great. That was a good blend.
Literal blend.
Yeah.
All right, Max, you were next up with an 89.
I
and you actually said your guesses were Four Roses limited edition, William LaRue Weller, or OWA pick. So you're on the right trail there.
Yeah, I wrote Weller 12. OWA pick was the first thing I wrote, and then I tried it again, and I was like, maybe it's a Four Roses limited edition. Like, this is good.
I was a little surprised that nobody guessed, hey, maybe Blake took 2 bourbons, put them in a blender, spun them around for a little bit.
First thing I thought of was Magic Bullet. I'm like, hey.
Yeah, obviously.
There's a little bit of leftover smoothie in here.
Yeah.
Is that kale?
Yeah.
I think that's kale. I think.
Pour hot water on the blade and everything before I started. We're good.
Yeah. I loved it, though. I got black cherry, vanilla, raw candy, leather, vanilla, sugar, plums. I said it was 10 to 15 years. I liked the finish. I thought it was, I got the red fruit that kind of faded away into oak and warm. That was my favorite one. Like I said, I messaged you about it, and I'm gonna have to do that. I've never got on the bandwagon. I've never tried making one, but I've got some Weller 12. I've got some OWA. Like, I'm gonna have to do that now.
It's time.
Yeah,
it's time.
I was always a naysayer, but I'm convinced.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be doing that.
So,
All right.
I mean, I'll my mind's a little blown, to be honest with you. I mean, this was, you couldn't have picked a better finish. Let's put it that way, right?
No.
And it's funny because I've actually tried Poor Man's Pappy before. I actually put it, both in a decanter, did 60-40, waited like 2 weeks, tried it, and I was like, like, honestly, for the longest time, people have asked me, like, have you ever tried it? And I've always said, they're actually better, like, on their own. Like, don't mix them together. Like, you're gonna end up ruining it, whatever. And then you do this to me, and I feel like an idiot because I mean, I put on here. I also want to preface this that this is the third one I tried. First was the Rebel Yell 10. Second was the Larceny, and then I got to this. So, like, the nose immediately was like 99,000% better than anything I had even had before then. And I ranked everything else before then, like in the throwaway category, right? And I was honestly just amazed. It's funny that Ed said bubblegum. I got the same exact thing, wrote that out. I said bubblegum and like Luxardo cherries is what I got out of it. I said it was probably around 100 to 110 proof. And some of the just typical bourbon that you get out, or notes that you get out, cinnamon, orange peel, light tobacco. I said that it did fall flat just a little bit after about maybe 8 to 10 seconds. I would have ranked it higher if it would have kept going, but I thought it was very well balanced, and I drink it on special occasions. And now I know that I actually have a Ninja downstairs too, so I've got a Christmas present that I can send other people now.
The Ninja Bourbon. I'm probably going to try to rebrand this as the Ninja Bourbon.
I mean, honestly, I think there actually might be something to that of actually putting it in a Ninja, spin it up, rather than just double vatting it, just pouring it in a decanter and seeing what happens. I think whatever it is, I mean, it made some magic happen right away. So I was pleasantly surprised. And I just finished the last of my sample too, because I was like, well, I'll hold on to that Dusty Makers for something, but this one I'll drink real quick to reaffirm it. And yeah, I'm sure it was.
Very good. Well, good deal, guys. I appreciate you all for taking the time out, and I know there was a lot of samples sent out, so it wasn't easy work, but hopefully it was a lot of fun doing it. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. This has been the episode number 2 for Bourbonr Blind Tasting. We'll have another episode next month, and thanks everyone for joining.
Yeah, thanks for putting this together, Blake.
No problem. Enjoy.
Cheers, everyone.
Yeah, cheers.
Yeah. So everyone was surprised. I mean, I couldn't have picked a better timing to finish on with a blended up version of, so Ed Bly was the last one to get his reviews in, and I'm like, okay, blended Poor Man's Pappy's in number 1. If Ed comes in with like a 60 and throws this into weight, I'm gonna be so mad. This is a perfect setup for how this episode's gonna go, and if he just then he did. So
that's too funny.
That was tasty.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. It's comical at the best, but
Yeah.
I mean,
It really is funny how that can change. I mean, because we all tried them in this tasting. You tried the OWA pick, and blending them together for some reason improves it. I don't know what it is.
That's crazy. I mean, the humbling nature of blind tastings, that will do it every time. That's awesome. That was awesome.
Very good. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate y'all. I'll send out all the kind of a recap, the data for if y'all want to take a look at it. It is pretty fun to look at. So then post should go up hopefully midweek this week, with being Thanksgiving. I was going to try to get it out on Tuesday. Pending any editing issues, I was just going to send it to Kenny and say, hey, so do whatever your magic is that you do on these things.
I thought you do everything in Microsoft Paint. That's how this all works.
There's no Microsoft Paint for video editing. I'm like, hold on. Like, all these things are pretty hard to deal with. What am I supposed to do? Well, that's fun. All right, guys. Y'all have a good one. I'm going to get
you too. Have a good
Thanksgiving,
guys.
All right, guys.
Shoot a big one.
If you knock down a big one tomorrow, I want some venison jerky. That's all I ask. Yeah.
Be safe out there. See you
All right, guys. Thank you.
Awesome.
Later,
Have a good one.
See you.